David, what are some of the more attractive markets that that now and in the future you see being for plant-based proteins out here in Asia?
Well, as Pratichee was talking, it reminded me of the Indian market, which for us is highly attractive because they're the world's largest consumer of pulses, and Lupin is a pulse. At the moment, I think that there's no doubt that Australian sweet lupins are considered targeting a niche market. And so in an Indian context, that means that we would target the top 5, probably less than 10% of the population. However, I think as time goes on, we've got to get scale so that we can push that ceiling further down. Example, chickpeas particularly are not a competitor, but are the biggest consumer, I would say, in India. So in our space, whereas lupin, by comparison to chickpea, you know, how would we approach this market? Well, lupin is twice the protein and 8 times less carbohydrate, 8 times more dietary fiber. There's a profound difference. The challenge is that India for us is quite a complicated market from port through to the consumer. And things like fulfillment by Amazon and a whole bunch of other options through India have to be the pathway for us to be able to get to the right customer. So that's sort of more westward. When we come back to, say, a 2-hour window, 2-hour time frame either side of Western Australia, then that includes the Singapore market and that region, which is far more of a sophisticated market. So certainly dal and flour are used by expat populations in Singapore, but the Singapore market and even the Thai markets and so on, they want a couple of things. One is they want a foundation for a really sustainable protein as a source to build other products. And number 2 is they want to be able to know exactly where the foods come from. There is such a lot of talk around these highly sophisticated foods that are super high in protein. They're loaded with numbers, and I'm not saying that to be critical. It's just that's the process. Whereas we feel that the markets that provide us with the best opportunity in those more sophisticated foods are those like a 2-minute noodle, a 2-minute pasta. Tofu, I think Daphne and perhaps Pratichee mentioned things like tofu. Lupin can be made from those. So our challenge in those markets is how do we get it there in a cost-effective way to the right customer? Who are the people that are likely to buy it? We were at Food Hospitality Asia in Singapore just before Christmas last year. And I didn't realize, and Singapore as an example, I didn't realize just to the extent of type 2 diabetes in that Singapore market. You know, I would say the vast majority of Singaporeans are thin as what I call twigs. They seem to be really fit people. They eat really well and so on. But it's not so much about the fat and so on. It's really about the sugar, salt, and fat, of course. But it's really about a lifestyle that energy in, energy out. So it means that they are trying to find this balance. Well, how do we continue? We love the lifestyle that we've got, and sure, we don't want to be triathletes, but we do need to do a bit more exercise perhaps. But how do we find great new ingredients that have got really good background that can deliver us a health benefit to ameliorate the effects of some of the other foods? So, and in terms of, you know, how would others approach this market? For me, it's really about understanding how people eat their food, what the really big social pressures are, and how do we meet those challenges in a way where tasteful, easy to cook, you know, like a 2-minute noodle, a 2-minute pasta is 2-minute noodles have been around for a long time, but they're about, you know, 6 or 7% protein and 75% carbohydrate. That's not really the answer to the future. We need something, you know, the market there needs something different. pushing sort of north or further a little bit north into that Thailand market, where there is a very, very large hub for food manufacturing, as I understand it. It's about, well, there are alternatives. It's a non-GM alternative. It's a low-carb alternative, and you're still going to get lots of protein. You don't need to go to isolates and concentrates to be able to use, to be able to develop really great foods that meet the needs of that that Asian and Indian market.